There's quite a few things about Pokemon that make people uneasy. Do Drifloons really kidnap children? Why did you slaughter a poor 10-year-old's pet rat before his very eyes? What's an ancient mythical being doing under a goddamn Ford F-150? These are all things that made the Pokemon games creepy, unsettling, and at some points, downright scary. Except for the truck thing, but you get what I'm saying. This franchise has a lot of surprisingly dark elements scattered throughout its lifetime, but there's one that's stuck in the most people's minds by a long shot, and that's the location from the original Pokemon games, Lavender Town. Now, on its own, Lavender Town was a pretty weird place for a kid's game. The townsfolk are somber and odd, the cemetery is loaded with ghosts, the whole Cubone's dead mother thing, and to top it all off, a weird creepy theme playing in the background, putting you off even further. I mean, the name raider is pretty chill though, I can't lie. Now, that's not exactly why Lavender Town is so remembered. Sure, it was kinda creepy, but it's what the internet did to Lavender Town that gave it its infamous reputation. We're talking about the many creepypastas based on the Purple Ghost Fest. I don't think it holds a light to the Mew under the truck though. I mean, can that asshole even drive? There are quite a few creepypastas surrounding Lavender Town. There's also a bunch of games, fan art, videos, so much surrounding this one random city in Pokemon, and it didn't even have a gym leader. The reason for this was because of how weird Lavender Town already was. Creepypastas and horror content based on video games tend to turn normal elements from the game into horror. A regular game with a pre-existing creepy element is prime real estate for tons of scary stories. Think about the Sonic CD Easter egg. That's one of the only scary things from this franchise, and people online took it and ran with it. There are so many things from Lavender Town that people turned into horror content. There was the mystery of the white hand, the music that played in the background, the ghosts that you encountered in the tower, and then came the original ideas that spawned from this aubergine anomaly. A zombie that would end your Pokemon game, a ROM hack where you could only use the ghost, a Pokemon episode that could give you a seizure. Oh wait, that last one was real. It's rough having Porygon be your favorite Pokemon. Today, I thought it would be fun to take a brief look at some of the various creepypastas and other content surrounding Lavender Town. Why were they feared so much, and in some cases, believed in their entirety? And nothing was more feared or known about Lavender Town than Lavender Town Syndrome. So, remember how I mentioned that the theme for Lavender Town was pretty unsettling? Well, it was so terrifying to some people that it delved from plain scary to harmful. Lavender Town Syndrome is the term used to describe the effects caused by listening to the Lavender Town theme. The song in the original release of Pokemon Red and Green apparently had these hidden frequencies that only children and young teens were able to hear, since they had more sensitive hearing. But something that everyone is gonna be able to hear is to go to gamersups.gg and use code TOADBUP, because from now to February 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern, you can get 21% off your entire order. So in these next few days, use code TOADBUP to go get 21% off your order of some delicious gamersups. Go do it now. Back to these hidden frequencies, they were a massive issue, mostly because of the negative effects on the kids who heard them. Some became deathly ill, developing different ailments and side effects, and some even ended up taking their lives. Apparently 200 children ended up taking their life because of this, normally by hanging or jumping off a building. The developers rushed to fix this song for future releases, and ever since, the world has never forgotten the Lavender Town Syndrome incident. Me, when I make a song so bad that it kills every kid who listens to it. Lavender Town Syndrome fooled so many people who heard about it. I think one big reason for this was because this wouldn't have been the first time Pokemon accidentally messed up like this. As many of you probably know, the real Pokemon episode Electric Soldier Porygon had this one scene where Pikachu blew up a missile and it had super bad flashing lights. This ended up sending about 600 children to the hospital. Pokemon got tons of backlash, and Porygon and his evolutions were even banned from featuring in the show ever again. It wasn't even his fault, you asshole. It was Pikachu who gave all the kids seizures, but no, can't ban the poster child, can we? Life of a Porygon fan, I tell ya. Anyways, hearing that this terrible incident actually occurred, it makes something like Lavender Town Syndrome not be completely out of the question. Even I thought it was real when I was younger, until I watched Tamashi Hiroka's video and realized it was all a lie. I played Fire Red anyways though. L dead 90s kids, am I right guys? But if you didn't go out of your way to do more research on this, I could totally understand people just living their lives thinking Lavender Town Syndrome was real. Hell, my brother, a massive Pokemon fan mind you, thought it was real until I told him back in 2023. He's older than me, by the way. This creepypasta was believable. Well, not really when you actually researched it, but it makes for a good rumor. As for the story itself, it's actually kinda funny when you start reading into it. You're telling me that the people who worked on Pokemon had no idea about this song being evil, but it had secret haunted images in the audio spectrogram? With unknowns spelling leave now? Besides unknowns not even being a thing when this game was released, what do you mean leave now? Do you mean like close the game? Because I'd gladly do that than play a Gen 1 Pokemon game. On top of that, the symptoms are just too extreme to be a coincidence. Sure, I'd maybe understand the headaches from the frequencies, but a video game song that mind controls you to take your life in very specific ways? Yeah, there's no way the devs didn't program that shit. It's way too particular. And lastly, if a video game drove hundreds of kids to death, the news would have been all over that. The media's always looking to pin things on video games. You're telling me the president in 1996 wouldn't have said a thing? We all know Bill Clinton wouldn't have been quiet. He hated Guilty Gear after all. That's a real thing, by the way. He publicly denounced Guilty Gear in a speech he gave. Go look that up. It's actually really funny. Despite the holes in the story when you dig into it a little, Lavender Town Syndrome is honestly a decent creepypasta, all things considered. It was just possible enough to maybe be real. Pokemon had had incidents like this in the past. You can't easily disprove it on the fly since the original game with the song was recalled. And it's not like you're gonna test this if you're a kid. I avoided the song for months after I heard about this. I did listen to the Heart Gold Soul Silver version though. This one's actually pretty good, I can't lie. But Lavender Town's creepy online legacy didn't end there. It started with the syndrome, but many other creepypastas, games, and more stemmed from this one location. They normally ran in tandem with Lavender Town Syndrome. So, while you were being brainwashed to jump off your roof, you were also being harassed by a spooky zombie man. Buried Alive was yet another myth or creepypasta or hoax or whatever that surrounded Lavender Town. He was apparently supposed to be a boss for Pokemon Tower before being replaced by the ghost Marowak. Now, I should mention that the creator of Buried Alive isn't known, but the sprites that everyone associates with the creepypasta were made by Queen Kami. Same goes for Lavender Town Syndrome. As far as I can tell, nobody knows who made the original concept. In my opinion, that just adds to the creep factor. Now, if only I didn't know who wrote Sonic.exe. Anyways, like I said, Buried Alive, or the Berryman script, was allegedly the original final boss when you got to the top of Pokemon Tower. Interacting with the grave where he was, he would recite the following. "You're here. I'm trapped. And I'm lonely. So very lonely. Won't you join me?" Sure, I'm not busy. You then have to fight his team of Pokemon, which, may I add, is entirely unfair. He has a team of about 4 Pokemon, a Muck, a Gengar, and 2 White Hands. We'll talk about this guy later. Now, if we go off the classic video made by 7G06, which I honestly consider to be part of the creepypasta, they were leveled up to hell and back. Sure, it's not impossible. 2 level 101 Pokemon could be beat by a good endgame team with good strategy, but this was a Lavender Town. For those of you who don't know Pokemon, this is about like middle of the game or so. Your Pokemon levels might be in the 40s by this point, but I'm not exactly sure what a level 42 Tentacruel is gonna do against the hands of Satan. If you win against the Berryman, which is unlikely, the game would just freeze. However, if you lose to him, he utters the words, "Finally, raw meat." The game would then switch over to an image of buried alive eating the trainer, giving you a game over. On top of that, the cartridge would download the disturbing image of your dead trainer onto the Game Boy's internal memory. This would lead to your Game Boy being unusable and forever displaying this image, with the Berryman no longer being alone. Holy shit, Game Freak, I lose one unfair battle and it bricks my console forever? On second thought, that's actually kinda funny. Can you do it for the Switch 2 releases? Buried Alive, similar to Lavender Town Syndrome, is a little goofy when you dig into it. Let me get this straight. I win and nothing happens, but if I lose my save file and my Game Boy? Was Game Freak just bored or something? Also, a game over isn't even possible in Pokemon. In fact, if you Google Pokemon game over screen, Buried Alive is the second result. That's crazy. Oh my god, what happened to Eevee? And once again, like Lavender Town Syndrome, I actually kinda like this one. It's for a different reason though. As a kid, I always grew up hearing people at school talk about hidden characters and secrets in video games. I'd also seen tons of fake videos and articles on this stuff too. I genuinely thought you could unlock Captain Jack Sparrow in Smash Bros. Whoever wrote that article is going to hell, by the way. Buried Alive reminds me of that. It's just like one of those classic playground rumors that I'd believe immediately. I could totally imagine my buddy giving me insanely convoluted steps on how to fight an evil Pokemon zombie. Buried Alive and Lavender Town Syndrome were without a doubt the most popular creepypasta surrounding Lavender Town. But there's quite a few more out there, quite a few more, so I want to take this next segment to blast through a few of the others. I was able to read most of these on the Creepypasta wiki, so shout out to them. It's because of them I was able to read such haunting tales like Pokemon Blue. Ooh, thank God that's not an actual thing. First up is the White Hand sprite, which once again has an unknown origin. This one actually has some basis in the game. One of the NPCs in Lavender Town asks you a question if you believe in ghosts. If you say no, she says, "Of course, that white hand on your shoulder isn't real then." Someone then decided to start a rumor based on this, that there was supposed to be a white hand enemy that you could fight in Pokemon Tower. It was to have 2 attacks, Fist and Brutal. I don't like those names. Fist is just a regular punch, but the animation frames for the Brutal attack were apparently never found. Viewing these animations was also hazardous? Hazardous how? Is this another Pikachu giving kids seizure situation, or is the hand moving so evilly that it just kills me on the spot? Anyways, this was another popular one, even being featured in the Buried Alive story as a Pokemon that the Berryman would use. The sprite most commonly associated with this story was also done by Queen Kami. That's pretty cool. Next up is a story called Lavender Town and Pokemon 731, which, once again, I cannot find an author for. I mean, these things happen. A lot of these stories are older and they kind of just get lost to time, so please let me know in the comments if I missed a source confirming any of the authors. I swear I did my best research. Anyways, Pokemon 731 was actually mentioned on the official Lavender Town Wikipedia page. That's kinda cool. In fact, this Wikipedia page led me to a whole-ass sourced research paper on Lavender Town Syndrome. There has to be one person, anyone out there that used this as a source for their college paper. There has to be. Pokemon 731 is an interesting read, to say the least, taking the concept of Lavender Town Syndrome and exploring it even further. It also might have referenced White Hand and Buried Alive before their respective creepypastas, but don't quote me on that one. It starts off fine, explaining more about the effects of Lavender Town Syndrome, but it takes a pretty hard right turn. It delves more into the creator of the Lavender Town song, wanting to create a second great imperial Japanese nation. I mean, the idea that they wanted to brainwash the kids to be insanely violent wasn't horrible, but then comes the inclusion of Unit 731. So I had to look this up, but Unit 731 was a real division of Imperial Japan during World War II. I am absolutely not going to get into detail in a video about Pokemon creepypastas, but just know that they carried out a lot of inhumane and cruel experiments on war prisoners. If you look this up, please proceed with caution. Anyways, the fact that this scary Pokemon story decides to start mentioning Unit 731 is absolutely baffling. There is actually a part that says the hidden Lavender Town tones might have been made from the screams of the victims of Unit 731. Do I even have to explain why that's fucked up? I just want to move on. Besides, we all know Pokemon 731 is Picky Peck, and as far as I'm concerned, he is not a metaphor for war crimes. Lastly, there's Pokemon Black. Yeah, I know, get your jokes out of the way. They already made Pokemon Black on the DS. Two things about that. This creepypasta actually came out before the game, and I hate you. This is actually a fairly interesting story. I love when these gaming creepypastas are about ROM hacks with no supernatural properties, because then they have an infinitely better chance of being considered real. Hell, this story was even made into an actual playable ROM hack. The story is about a Pokemon game collector who primarily collects bootlegs and ROM hacks. Also, the story mentions Pokemon Chaos Black, Mew 3 my beloved. The author had bought a random Pokemon game from a flea market with nothing but the Pokemon logo and a blank black label. It was the original Pokemon Red and Blue, but with a minor difference. There was a new starter Pokemon. Next to the 3 classic starters was the Ghost from Pokemon Tower. He only knew one attack though, and it was called Curse. This wasn't a real attack in the games, but when used, it would always one-hit KO whatever Pokemon you were facing. Throughout the game, as you use Curse more and more, the Pokemon and trainers you battle seemingly die. Pokemon would cry out in pain when defeated, trainers are replaced by tombstones, all those fun spooky shenanigans. What appeared like a simple and kinda boring ROM hack eventually does something new. After defeating the Elite Four and viewing the Hall of Fame, your game cuts to black and fast forwards to the future. Now an old man, you walk past the graves of many, while in Lavender Town! There it is, it's the scary place! Quick, develop an illness and die. You can explore the entirety of Kanto, but there's no Pokemon, no trainers, nobody to be found. If you go all the way back to your house and into your room where the game began, the game once again cuts to black. A bunch of sprites of the various Pokemon and trainers you've killed slowly appears on screen, which honestly sounds kinda creepy. If the Lavender Town theme wasn't playing slowly in the background, I honestly think it would be scarier, but hey, you gotta fit in that purple son of a gun somewhere. A battle occurs as it's just you as an old man against the ghost you previously used. All you can do is struggle as you slowly whittle away at your own health. The ghost will eventually use Curse, which cuts the game to black, and you can no longer continue the save file. I think part of the reason I love this story is because this totally could have happened. It's not haunted and it doesn't even destroy your console or anything. You could even restart your save after this and play as many times as you want. At the end of the day, it's just a random ass creepy Pokemon hack. Why the author cried at the end of the story I couldn't tell you, but I really enjoyed it. And like I said earlier, there's a whole playable recreation of this creepypasta out there. It's actually pretty cool. I would link it, but then I think Nintendo would come and kill me with evil brainwashing music, and that just doesn't benefit anyone, does it? And those were just a handful of the many Pokemon creepypastas based on Lavender Town. Technically, Pokemon Black wasn't based on Lavender Town, but it was pretty rooted in it, especially towards the end. I'm sure there's tons of other stories out there, and I think that just goes to show how much potential Lavender Town had for horror. Once again, when games aimed for all ages have pre-existing scary content, it is ripe for online horror content. Also, and I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, I think Pokemon has a better track record with creepypastas than other video games. Sure, Mario and Sonic have their standouts, but they also kinda have absolute garbage. Pokemon's got Lost Silver, Snow on Mount Silver, Pokemon Black, and of course Lavender Town Syndrome. Something about this franchise just lends itself better to horror. It's not always good, but it's better. I really hope to see some new Pokemon horror content soon, because I feel like it's been a little dry lately. The last thing I can remember seeing was that big Friday Night Funkin' mod about Hypno, and that was cool, but I'm kind of excited to see some more unique and interesting concepts in the near future. But let's get serious for a second. This story is absolutely ridiculous. In fact, I could prove it. I'm gonna play the original Pokemon right now. Wait a minute, this isn't Pokemon. What the hell is this? Oh god, I forgot about Texas Hold'em Poker for Game Boy Advance Syndrome. Legend says that if you listen to the theme of this game, you become a gambling addict. No. Oh, actually, I'm actually not too upset about this. I'm gonna go hit the slots.
Shakes the soul and makes you feel alive. Shakes up your